Well, hello friends, welcome back to Walking in Magic. How are you? It's good to be with you once again. I thought we could have a nice, relaxed moment together. Grab yourself something warm or something cold and maybe a project that you've been working on that you want to work on together. I'm going to be working on this beauty, which I started right before the full moon in Scorpio, and I had wanted to complete it on the full moon evening. I didn't do that. I did something else as a ritual for myself, and so today's the day, and it actually works out really well because we are on the path to the new moon in Taurus, which happens on May 7th. In between, we have Beltane, which is on May 1st. We're still, and I did a video with a little more info on Beltane yesterday, so you can check that out on the channel. So we're still in that shedding of the skin, which is emblematic of the snake, and really sort of probing the depths of what wants to be released in order for us to emerge and unfurl and have this moment of emergence is the big word that keeps coming up. I'll also want to mention that I have a full moon in Scorpio ceremony available on Patreon and the free tier if you want to go check that out. And I'm also going to talk about Taylor Swift in this video. Taylor Swift and Black Moon Lilith. Get ready. So regardless of how you feel about Taylor Swift, I happen to be a Swiftie, very proud, and I've been obsessed over her latest album, The Tortured Poets Department. I've been really looking forward to it, and now I've been listening to it a lot on my record here in the office, and my vinyl, on vinyl, I should say, not in my vinyl, on vinyl. And also, headphones on while I'm working and things like that. But it's been really wonderful to have in the background. And there's a particular song on that album called Who's Afraid of Little Old Me? And if you've heard it, you've probably been as impacted by that particular song as I have. Many of us have. And I thought it would be a really cool to actually, before I begin, there's a couple things I want to do. So hold with me, because I do want to have a moment to make this, build this into a mini ceremony. There's nothing mini about it. It's just simple, but simple is beautiful. So I have this little thing which I sometimes use to burn candles in. It also can be used to burn incense and some other, to disperse throughout the house, right? I'm going to cast a bit of a soften, release, encourage spell here. I have some lavender, which I'm going to put as a base. And then I also have these courage salts, which I got from Glastonbury in England. So I'm going to sprinkle those there. And as I'm doing it, I'm always feeling into the intention and the energy of what this spell in particular in this moment means for me. This moment of ritual, this moment of intention, which has to do with, as I'm completing this piece, really intending for more of those energetic layers to release and for me to feel even more at ease and in freedom as I embark on this new chapter in my life. I'm going to take this tea light out. Actually, I'm going to leave it in because then it'll last longer. I was going to take it out, but I'm just going to leave it in. Little basic tea light, right? And as I'm lighting the fire, and feel free to set your own intention as well for your own release and the courage to release, the courage to shed that older skin, the courage to transform, the courage to just to get back to the basics, the foundational, the raw elements of who you are. And for me, this is particularly important because, and I share this with you. So take a breath. May we have the courage to shed this current form that wants to be released. And may we open the energy and a new portal with joy and with an open heart and an open mind. Open mind is a really big theme for our current energetic state, particularly after the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. So, having cast that beautiful spell together, thank you for joining me. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. And the other reason why I make sure I'm recording. Yes. The other reason why I'm casting I want to do this release ceremony today is because I'm preparing myself this week to deliver a whole new experience, which I want to invite you to. It's called the Wildflower Chronicles. This is something I created yesterday that I shared via my newsletter. And it's just a simple image with, you can call this a prayer and incantation. You can call this a declaration. Let's call it a declaration. The Wildflower Chronicles, let me start with that, is a new program that I'm offering online. It's a self-paced program. And I'm going to begin releasing videos on May 1st, which is Beltane. And there's going to be a series of 8 portals or chapters that we're going to both walk through as you also break through and build a chronicle of your wildflower self, your wild, free, real, more uninhibited, unapologetic self. The wildflower frequency is something that we can activate now. That's what I'm calling it, because it helps us to really emerge in the truth of who we are and find the freedom to express ourselves regardless of the current situation we're living in. I'm really big on that. The circumstances around you may be very challenging, and that may be the case, and that does not preclude you from activating this within you. Because being a wildflower is not about being happy and happy all the time. It's about being real. That idea of unfurling your petals. And the phrase I'm using is this declaration to walk upon the earth in full bloom. Full bloom doesn't mean you're always feeling your most radiant, joyful, amazing self. Full bloom can also be fully imbued and embracing your grief, your sorrow, your pain, your challenges, but you do not cave in. You bloom. And even as you're hearing these words, as I'm saying them, I can feel this opening and softening, this unfurling, and hopefully you can feel it too. So the Wildflower Chronicles are now available. There's a link below. The entire cost for lifetime access is just $88 for 8 incredible portals of transformation. You're going to love it. Go check it out and see if it sings and speaks to you. And I will read this as we begin. It feels like a really appropriate inclusion to the candle we just lit. I hereby choose to walk upon this earth in full bloom, to write my own story, to compose my own symphony, to chart my own course. I declare that my petals will forever unfurl and that my inner light will illuminate even the most shadowy spaces. I cannot be contained. I am a wildflower, wild, wise, and free. And so it is. So, here we go. This snake I drew, again, like I said, in preparation for that full moon in Scorpio, which was bonkers, amazing, grand. Did you feel it? Because boy, oh boy, did I. And of course, that came after the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which came after the solar eclipse. So we have been in it. We've been in it. By the way, I also wanted to note, I did this this black, shiny black is an acrylic. And even though it had fully dried, it hadn't fully dried. And I didn't intend to close my book, but I did. And then it got stuck. And I was like, oh no, as I was peeling it off. And at first I thought I was going to fix it or be, mildly annoyed. I was mildly annoyed when it got stuck together because I was like, oh, it looks so beautiful. And it's just like that depth of that black was really impactful, which it still is. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to leave these like this because it is meant to be part of that imperfect wildflower energy that I'm calling in for myself and for anybody who's who's choosing to work in the space with me because we're going to be doing this together. So I'm going to dive right in. And like I said, I did the black and acrylic, which the black was actually inspired by my son Skylar, because he told me. I was originally going to do like a dark gray, and I told him, and he said, no, it must be all black, like full black. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to pay attention to you, my wise little medicine man. So I did, and I am obsessed. I'm very, very happy that I did. So this is watercolor, and there's no plan here, except I knew I wanted to give this some sort of shades of lilac. Dusty rose, I guess, is what we're looking at here. So, am I in frame? Yes, I am. Hello. I do hope that you are also working on something, or maybe you're just doing something around the house. As I almost dipped my my brush in the fire. Oh, my friends. Okay, so let's talk about Taylor. This song called "Who's Afraid of Little Old Me?" The first time I heard it, I'm clutching I'm touching my heart, clutching my chest right now, because wow, it moved me. It's one of those songs that just like, oh my God. And this work of art that she's put together is really like a bunch of incredible poetic journal entries that she's put music to. And she released 15 tracks, and then she released 15 more. And clearly Taylor Swift is incredibly prolific. And I'm not gonna lie when I tell you that there are times in my life, there have been many times, when I'm sort of stuck on something and I will ask myself, what would Taylor do? And it kind of shifts my energy. I do believe in that. It's like, working with those archetypes. And she's incredibly prolific, and I so admire the way she approaches her songwriting with such a real, with what she's feeling in the moment. And yes, I can hear some of you going, oh, but she just writes about her breakups and all that stuff. Yes, and I believe it's so much more, because we might get, those songs where it's like, oh, it's about this guy. Okay, well, maybe the guy prompted the experience, that relationship. But she's writing about her experience, and she's like putting it all out there. And it's really, it's impressive for me. It's inspiring to live in that way. It's inspiring to show yourself. And once these pieces of music exist out in the world, and then it's like up for anybody to basically either love them or destroy them, it's like anything goes. Sorry, there was loud noises outside, so I was kind of doing a double. My antennas were connected over there too. Isn't that always the case? You're doing something and it's like, I told my hubby, I got him all set up. He's watching TV and Skylar's good. And I was like, I'm going to go record a video. Of course, they know that if they really need me, they can always holler, and I will come. And I've learned how to find that balance between creating and defining and requesting my space. And really, the word training sounds like I'm dealing with animals, which is not the case. But really, like, what's a better word that's not training? Oh, I love that some of my courage salt ended up here on the book. I don't know if you can see that, but there's like little bits of salt there. So not training, but just getting them used to it. And getting myself used to asking for it, and setting myself up for success in that way, so that I don't feel as maybe constrained and constricted as I did before. Also part of how we unfurl as wildflowers. So when I work with people's astrology, when I read charts, one of the points that when I feel there's a readiness, that the person's like, they're in a moment in time when it's ready to have the Black Moon Lilith conversation, I will bring it up. And I do it when I sense that there's a readiness. And by the way, I believe, the readiness comes from your desire. It's not like I'm deciding like, oh, you're ready or not ready. But sometimes working with Black Moon Lilith could feel overwhelming because we're not ready for it ourselves. It doesn't show up for a reason. I've had the same experience where it's like, oh, something shows up in a moment in time because my system, I am ready now to process whatever's coming through for that particular. I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do. These are 2 full moons. I love how it also came up with 2 full moons. So when there is a point where I will bring Black Moon Lilith in. Working with Black Moon Lilith is this side of the divine feminine that has been contained, locked away. It's the side in sort of very broad terms because there's a lot more depth to this, but in broad terms, Black Moon Lilith energies represent the parts within us, particularly as women and in the feminine, that have been squeezed through judgment, squeezed through, let's go all the way to Eve and basically blaming her for the fall of Eden. That snake story. The snake was inherently divinely feminine before, and an incredible symbol that was, taken and transformed into something else, as so many other things have been done throughout the years by the Catholic faith, taking, things that are of, the goddess realm that have been squeezed, not only squeezed, but vilified. So think about vilified. Think about people being the parts of you that you feel most embarrassed about, the parts of you that you're afraid people will vilify you for, the parts of you that you are afraid are bad. Whatever feels bad girl. We always want to be the good girl, right? The good girl, and fill in the blank with what that means for you. A good girl gets this and this and that. The good girl doesn't get this and this and that, etc., right? So feel into that right now. Like if you allow yourself to, something will come up within you, probably in your womb. So that's where I'm feeling it right now, and that's where it will usually flare up, let's call it. And it is something that we can call our sacred rage. The sacred rage of having been contained, of having been held under a thumb, of having been not allowed to be fully ourselves and to have to be the good girl. Because the bad girl, oh no. The bad girl is what? Think about all the words that we would call the bad girl. The word that starts with S, L-U-T, the word that starts with B, you know what I'm talking about, etc., right? The word that starts with, I was going to say H, W, W-H, you catch my drift. So today, as I'm listening to the song, I had this moment of like, wait, what? This is Black Moon Lilith. I had already connected the song to this idea of this rage, right? This feeling of you're caging me in. And she has all of these metaphors in the song that speak to that. This idea of being caged in like an animal. This idea of having to perform, like, performing in the circus. There's this line about, don't worry, folks, we took out all her teeth. Why? Oh, because if you take out the animal's teeth, then they can't do anything. Oh, great. And basically, the song, which has this surprising moment where she basically screams, "Who's afraid of little old me?" and replies, "You should be." My friends, every time I hear it, the first time I heard it, I was floored. I felt it in every, in all of my bones. I felt it in my womb. I felt it in my yoni. I felt it in my heart. I felt it. These moons are looking really nice. I felt it. And then I listened to it again and again, and I read the lyrics. And somebody else that I saw a video that they posted, and they connected the words sacred rage to it as well, which was so aligned with how I was feeling. And then today I was like, oh, Black Moon Lilith. Black Moon Lilith. The snake is also connected to Black Moon Lilith. And again, just think about all the meaning and symbolism that we've attributed to the snake. If you know your Swiftland, if you're Swiftie yourself, or at least somewhat, a fan. Of course, she released her album called Reputation, which had snake images galore. And that was connected to something that happened, really unpleasant situation she had with another female celebrity that called her a snake. And again, we see the use of that. But Reputation was basically for her like a reclamation. She literally says in one of her songs, oh, the old Taylor can't come to the phone right now because she's dead. And I hadn't even planned on this because I'm saying it right now and I'm getting all the chills. That the audacity to say, I'm going to declare it May 1st, Beltane. Beltane, now that we've gone through all of these pulse points of being squeezed through the eye of the needle, of purging out our old form, and we have that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which just shook up a certain portion of our chart and our life in some way, and we'll probably continue to see the ramifications of that. What if we all declared, oh, I'm sorry, the old Maria Aleandra can't come to the phone right now. Oh, what? Because she's dead. And not be afraid of that. That is the ultimate in declaring your transformation. That is the ultimate metamorphosis. You have been renewed. You are somebody else. Not because you've changed into somebody else, because you have become more of your truer form. We're not adding on to our personality. We are revealing a raw essence. Working with Uranus is one of my favorite planets to work with, and it is very, very deep, profound work, and it is a work that takes a lot of courage. If you so feel inclined and you feel called by Uranus, dive in. It takes a lot of courage because Uranus works in the realm of the higher mind, the shamanic. He's outside of this world, and so he transforms things in a way that could feel very unsettling, but also there is a spark of rebel genius, like rebel genius, not just from the mind, but rebel genius from how you approach the world that is possible. Hold on one second. ¿Qué pasó, mi amor? Yes. Open one of the bags on the counter, okay? Okay, you can find them, baby. Te quiero. So just checking in, because if he does need me, I'm gonna go help him, but I think he's fine. I think he's good. What was I saying? Oh, yes. So that ultimate in transformation, in metamorphosis, in Uranus, yes. Uranus, the role that Uranus has as an archetype, as an energy, as a teacher, is to take us from our conditioned self to our essence. Conditioned meaning how the story has been written for you. And then you flip into you writing your own story. And there is a point in our early 40s between, depending on the person and your time of birth and your chart, between like 41, 42, 43, 44. This is the Uranus opposition. And it also coincides with what? The midlife crisis. The midlife crisis, right, which is, has this whole connotation, really has an astrological equivalent that it's born from. And it is because it's a period in your life where it's almost like the first chapter. If it like splits your life in two, let's say, which hopefully you live way more than that. But let's say it splits your life in two. That first anthology of your life has been written for you. And then that second anthology of your life that you begin to open up with Uranus, that Uranus opposition, that is the one you get to write for yourself. That is Uranus, from the conditioning to your essence, to who you are, right? And the who you are question has been coming loud because we're also working with the Aries North Node this entire year through January of 2025. So all the more reason for you to feel that emergence, that pulsing of desire to, you don't want to be contained anymore. You don't want to be contained. You want to grow wild, free, trust yourself, which is where the wisdom comes in. Know that you are wise. Know that you cannot be contained. Now, do we think it's any coincidence that Miss Taylor Swift released her album the day before the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction? When she announced the name, the date, April 19th, immediately, because of course I'm working with these dates, I'm conscious of them all the time, immediately, that's where I went to. Now, I cannot confirm if that is the case. I have not had a conversation with Taylor Swift, sadly, because I would love to. But to me, that felt really significant. Really significant. There's some other historical things that also point to that date, which I've since found out that are pretty cool, having to do with freedom. And but to me, for the purposes of this conversation and my imagination, that was a symbolic choice for her to do it on that day, to release it on that day as a way to break free. Somebody asked me when I first started listening to the album, they were like, "Oh, is it good?" And they were like, what is it about? Breakups? Because that's the thing. People are always like, "Oh, this song is about this guy and this song is about this guy and whatever." Sure, okay. And I said, yes, breakups, absolutely. Pain for breakups, but it's also about breaking through. It's also about breaking through and doing it in a way where you are it's literally like vomiting out all the feels you had. And she always writes like a poem or she always writes sort of this introductory written piece when the album is released, the day the album is released. And in the one that she wrote, I don't have it here verbatim, but essentially it was like, these are stories that they've passed. They're done. That chapter of the author's life is over. And that's it. They're done. There's nothing held in animosity. That chapter is done, closed. And how profound is that as well? And as she is playing with all of these symbolisms and as she is expressing herself, this could be seen as beautiful release, spell work, and then rippling it out into the world. This album almost feels like, and she literally said, as I'm thinking, I was gonna say, this album feels like, she just really wanted to write it and put it out for herself. And she said that when she put it out into the world, when she announced it, she said, this is an album that I had to write for myself. And there's also power to that, because clearly Taylor Swift is going to make, a pretty penny from this album. She's very prolific and is doing incredibly well from that standpoint. But it's also almost like irrelevant in a way. The way this album has been created, that feels irrelevant. And as I connected, I don't know if that was a good choice, but I'm okay with it. As I connected the dots again with Black Moon Lilith, and that idea of, all the things that we, when I go back to vilify or fear in other women, it is potent to stand in that space and know that sacred rage has its place, and that it must be released. It must be released. Because what's happening is that we're walking around, particularly as women, or if you identify as a woman, but as women, we've been walking around all like coiled up, and feeling the rage and the resentment and the anger of a system that has continued to oppress us. and that we've been clawing our way out of and trying to transform and hold ourselves in many forms. It wasn't that long ago, my friends. This is one of my favorite recent stats. And I have to thank one of, somebody that I've been in astrology, ceremonies really with Mar, amazing. She's a Spanish astrologer. So we've been doing some ceremonies. I've been doing some ceremonies with her. And she gave me this incredible fact that it wasn't until 1974 in the United States that banks were required to allow women to open their own bank accounts without having their husband or father present to sign for them. 1974. This was yesterday. I mean, this was my mother, of course, my grandmother. You may be listening to this and identifying also, maybe it was even you, somebody in your life, but this is very recent. 1974, until you were allowed as a woman to walk into a bank and open your own bank account without having a man sign for you, your father or your husband. Hello. So we are very much disentangling all of this. It's happening right now as we speak. And oh my God, the patriarchal lashing that's happening right now in so many ways is this like clutching and grasping for like the little whatever control they can keep, which feels incredibly overwhelming. But I believe that it's also a sign of enough of a momentum happening in a good direction, like enough energy is getting built up for more dramatic changes to happen, hopefully in the next few years. And as I say this, I take a breath and I'm like, there seems to be so many things that are broken and so much pain in the world. And I refuse to lose hope. And I refuse to be stuck in the loss of hope. I choose to see it. I choose to make space for it. I choose to not turn away from it. And I also choose to see it with a different light. So, I don't think I'm going to finish this piece right now because I want this to dry a little bit. And then I'm trying to figure out what I might do with these little diamonds. Or you know what? Let me go ahead and paint those. Let me see what color. Maybe like a green. Ooh. This one? Let's see. Let's try one out. So what are you working on right now? Tell me in the comments. Ooh, look at this fluorescent moment we got going on here. That's fun. What have you got? What are you working on? Let me know in the comments. Or maybe you were just doing stuff around the house. Are you excited for May? The energies in May are really, really beautiful. We'll continue to shake things up. Don't hesitate to turn on your magic. And really, a lot of the reason I'm going to go back, I'm in this wildflower mentality because I've been in it for a few months and really cultivating it from a space of what is it that wants to come through. I don't just do programs or classes or things because I'm like, oh, this sounds like a good business idea. I cannot work that way, and that may be to my detriment sometimes as a businesswoman, but that's just not how things come through. So I'm constantly asking for clarity and asking myself, like, what is it that wants to come through, and what is it that feels very true to me and in integrity with where I am and what I see the potential is to grow together when other people say yes to the experience. And one of the things that keeps coming through loud and clear, because it is such a representation of my life, as many of you know, my husband was diagnosed with ALS in 2020. So I have been his caregiver for 4 years, and my life dramatically changed in every possible way. And it has been the hardest road I could have ever imagined traversing. And one of the tenets of working with wildflower frequency is that it is about weaving the sense of enchantment into your current reality, into your everyday life. So wherever we are on the continuum of feeling, a feeling of grief, of sorrow, of whatever we're holding, and some of us may not be prepared to do it, and that's beautifully and perfectly okay, and you get to trust yourself every step of the way. Don't let anybody give you a prescription for what you should do. Rather, give yourself permission and explore. But the idea that you can weave that sense of enchantment, you can weave that magic, you can weave that new perspective into your everyday life, that you don't have to wait until you have a certain set of circumstances, because then we're going to be waiting for a very long time. And so that feels really important to illuminate right now, because you walking around this earth and choosing to walk in full bloom, choosing to unfurl, is a beautifully radical act of growth, and can also be very soft, and doesn't have to be that you're like, oh, all of a sudden I'm the extrovert. Well, no. You can be a wildflower in your own time. It's also like there's a slow living aspect to it. There's this slow living because it also naturally connects us more to the elements, and it also naturally connects us more to the wheel of the year. The fact that I'm beginning to work this energy and weave this energy on Beltane is very specific. And I'm closing, in terms of the last chapter will be released on May 24th, which is the day after the full moon in Sagittarius, also a significant point. So everything the energy is being captured during that beautiful portal as we walk through these 8 portals of releasing and becoming and inspiration and practical tips. I'm really big on like practical ways to make new choices in your life, so that you're actually like feeling, you're doing it. You're not just listening about it, but you're as you're deciding, making choices in your life, this new consciousness gets seeped in and you turn it on. It becomes you. So the intentionality of all of that is really, really beautiful. Okay, well, I'm going to leave this here, and I'm going to thank you for hanging out with me. I felt really beautiful to talk this through. I hope you do listen to, if there's at least one song from all the new songs she released, Who's Afraid of Little Old Me? And keep your liminal ears open for what you receive from it. It's the power of music, poetry, art, any art, is that what is it, how does it speak to you and through you? And how does it make you feel in terms of your own sacred rage of how the divine feminine has been held in a vice? I say that and I feel it. I feel it. Hold on, my love. I'll be right out, okay? And that's my cue, my friends. That is my cue. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you did. Thank you for liking, subscribing. Do check out the Wildflower Chronicles. I think it's a worthy investment for a beautiful, beautiful experience that you'll have lifetime access. Go at your own pace. It would be a joy and an honor to walk that path with you and bloom together. And with that, I bid you good night. Be well.